Welcome to a new Malt Academy, this time in English. I'm Arthur. I'm working in the community team in Paris for the French team. Today I'm with Julie. We're going to talk about OKRs. Hi, Julie.
Hiya. Hi, everyone.
I hope you're all doing perfect. Can you let us know that you hear us well and that you can see us in the chat part, just to be sure that everything is fine? Perfect, fine for me. Okay, great. Cool. So if you haven't attended any Malt Academy yet, I will just take a few seconds just to let you know what we have been doing at the community for the past few weeks. So you have these three information, the one about our page, dedicated page about the situation, which is quite complicated and weird for lots of you, lots of us. So you have covid19.mal.fr where you can find all the info about the situation. It's in French. Then you have the hashtag ready to help for anyone willing to help different organizations. You can put this hashtag in your profile, on your description, or on your title, then to be maybe contacted by people who need your skills for different projects. And yes, you can find all the other Malt Academies on the dedicated website. You can find it on our weekly newsletter as well. Don't hesitate to go there to see what's new, and also you can find the different replay. So if you missed one, you can catch up. We will share the presentation of Julie at the end of the presentation. If you have any question, you can ask it in the chat. And we'll try to answer it when we can during the presentation or at the end. If it's good for you, Julie, I'll let you now talk about OKRs.
Perfect. Thank you, Arthur. Thank you so much for having me today. And thank you for the whole Malt team to organize those academies. It's really, really cool. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time today to trying to make the most of that very special time. So I will try to share my screen. Yep. Is that cool? Can we see my screen? Okay. Awesome.
Yep, I think
cool.
It's fine.
So just to start a little bit about me, I'm a product and funding consultant, which means I help founders and early stage startups with their product roadmap, their business model, and their funding requests. So everything from business plan to pitch to speaking to investors. You can find me on Malt, and happy to connect over LinkedIn. Today, we are going to speak about OKRs, and here's a little bit how I want us to go through it. So first, we will recover like what are the OKRs, like more of a oops, sorry, didn't clean that up. But yes, all the definitions, and then why we're using it, so we can use them well. And then we'll go to the meaty part of the presentation with the third and fourth part about how to set OKRs, how to score them, and we'll finish with what that means for your company in terms of processes and impact and culture. Anytime you have questions, I'll try to manage the chat at the same time, but we'll also try to find time between each of the parts to make sure that we are all on the same page. Cool. So what are OKRs? So OKRs got really famous for being a Google method. It was actually born in Intel and then was brought by John Doerr to Google. And that's a method Google has been using for the past 20 years. So they have been really refining and adapting that method for different teams. So it's a goal setting system that was based on the SMART method to create alignment and engagement. The idea is, I don't know if you're familiar with the SMART method. There's a few different versions of it, but the idea is to define efficient goals. So first, your goal has to be specific. We all want to conquer the world with a pinky and the brain, but we need to go one step at a time. So what is the first step? What is the second step? And so on. So being specific. Then it's to be efficient, it has to be measurable. So how to put a number to it? What is the percentage or a milestone that you can reach? Then on the third item is to be achievable. So while we will speak about stretch goals, it always has to be something that if you get your A game, you still have a chance to reach it. Fourth one is to be result focused. And again, we'll spend more time speaking about it, but the idea of the OKRs is to be focused on results and not efforts. And the fourth, final one is being time bound, because we all know that setting deadlines is the best way to keep track and be on plan. Yes, I think we'll record all of this, and the recording will be available on your YouTube channel, I think, Malt YouTube channel. So maybe Arthur can confirm later. Second one is OKRs are readable. So basically what it means is once you've set your OKRs for yourself or for your team, everyone within or at the exterior of your team should be able to understand what you want to achieve and how you're going to reach there. So you'll have the what, the objective, and the how, the key results. The objective is a qualitative statement about the goal. There's a little bit of like the why as well, is like, let's say you want to raise a Series A. It's like, why do you want to raise a Series A? Is it to open a new market? Is it to launch a new feature? It's like, why do you want to achieve that goal? Set a time period. Usually OKRs in most companies are set for 3 months, quarterly. Again, it's up to you, but a quarter leaves you enough time to have ambitious and impactful objective. So it's a good first one to start with. And then you have your set of key results. Those key results are like quantitative metrics that will help you assess how far you've come and how far you are from your objective. So that's for the definition. If we don't have any question around that, I think that was like the part where maybe most of us were. We'll dive deeper into why we use them. So like how it can make an impact in your team and in your processes. So the first one is OKRs help planning. I like to make the parallel with the important urgent matrix. I think it's a good way to use OKRs to keep that in mind. So to go through that matrix, if it's important and urgent, it's probably part of your OKRs for this quarter. If it's important but not urgent, it's like to think, what is the timeline? Is it due to for the next 3 months? If so, maybe it's part of your OKRs for this quarter. Or if not, if it's for later on, then you can put it on the backlog for your the OKRs for the next quarter or for later in the year. If it's not important and urgent, that's an interesting one. If it's urgent, it's probably important for someone, but if it's not important for your team, it means it's probably another team OKR. And then it's a good way to then get in touch with the team and make sure like it's on their list and how they want to set up and to align with how you want to reach that piece. And then if it's not important and not urgent, that means it's not an OKR. It's maybe something you will need to do at some point, probably not, but it's surely not an OKR. Second one is OKRs help track. It helps you keep helps you track your progress and keep you in line to your objectives. So on different levels, on an individual level, if you have your own OKRs, it's good to look back at those, whether it's weekly, monthly, mid-quarter. We highly recommend to check them at least once mid-quarter, because it would be a shame to go through those 3 months and then look back and say, oh, well, I kind of forgot that I set myself that OKR, or like I drifted a little bit along the way. So it's good to keep them fresh in mind and help you prioritize your workload. It's on an individual level, it's also good to raise concerns. So if you are drifting, then it's good to realize that, and then it's a good opportunity to ask why. Why is it that you are taking a little bit of turn compared to what you set yourself? On a team level, it's good for manager to see that most of the time should be spent on OKRs. It doesn't mean that the whole time. Sometimes we have like ongoing business type of tasks, but most of it should be spent on OKRs. If it's not the case, again, it's like, did we miss out on like a very strategic objective that we didn't take into account? Or is it because maybe we didn't set ourselves challenging, ambitious enough objectives? And that's where we can then dive deeper into those questions around, like, is my team reaching its potential? Am I challenged enough or stretched too thin? This is a good way to gauge like how much effort you have to put into reaching those objectives. And then finally, on a year level, it's really interesting to be able to look back and see how they evolved. So first one is doing some postmortems. So postmortems is like kind of a documentation on project that didn't go to plan, and to try to see why it didn't go to plan. Is that like a lack of resource, change of strategy? It's really not to put the blame on anyone. It's always like a blameless document, as we say it, but it's a good way to keep that in mind for next OKRs. And then you can compare OKRs from one quarter to another. You can have ongoing OKRs, so increase customer satisfaction could be an ongoing OKR for your team, but then the objectives stay the same, but then maybe the key result, the way you achieve that, may evolve from one quarter to another when your team is evolving. And the last one is like, if there's OKR that dropped, is that like, just keep that in mind and understanding like if the strategy was strong enough at first. So it's a really good tool for fast moving startups as well. And the last one that I find the most interesting, and which also makes OKRs a little bit tricky to adopt for your own team, is to help alignment. So on 3 different levels that enable everyone to be on the same page. So first, it keeps people engaged. So my own OKRs will feed to at least one of my managers' OKR that probably, well, should feed into at least one of the company's OKR. So we all know what we are working towards. We own a little bit of piece of the strategy of the company. So it's really empowering. And it enables everyone to make sure that, everyone to focus on what I'm most. Second piece that sometimes some teams find a bit tricky is OKRs are meant to be public. They are meant to be available across the company. At first, it's a bit scary, but in the end, it's really a way to set really clearly for your teammates and the wider company what is in your scope and what will not be done, at least for this quarter. So it feeds into the last one that is on a bigger level, obviously, if you have a small team, but for the cross-functional collaboration, so from marketing, working with tech and product team and working with sales team, it helps. It's an added piece to communicate priorities. At any point, your stakeholder or your interlocutor can look at your OKRs and see where you're at and what are you working on. So it helps understand better if their urgent thing that is not important for you, like why is that gap, and try to find ways to bridge that gap. And the last piece is sometimes 2 teams could share an objective. So for, let's say we have the objective of improving customer experience. It can be shared across products, marketing, customer service. And that same objective will be broken down into a different set of key results for each team. So it does mean that it helps everyone understanding what are their parts, to own their scope, and to also understand really well what will be done by other team to really smoothen any expectation and any expectations. And again, making sure that the whole company is working towards the same goals. That's a very good question. Should be top down or bottom up? This is actually, that's the last slide, but I think it's the most important question. It's like, it's both at the same time. And that's actually the strength of that method. I think we can come back to it a little bit when we will talk about setting up and how it impacts your culture, but it's definitely a conversation. And that's what is empowering about the experts you hired to do a job. So bottom up, they come up with their recommendation of what OKRs should be, but also taking into account that it should always feed into the strategy of the organization. So a bit top down as well. So we'll come back to that. An overall tool I recommend. So there's a lot, so if it's to track OKRs, there's a bunch of them. I would say I still use Excel. So I will share a couple of templates later on. I still use Excel. A doc could work as well. There's a bunch of software. One thing that is true for everything is when you get like a first experience with a method, it's good to use like the MVP version, like the minimal investment on your end, so you can focus on like how it works. Trello is a good one, actually. Yeah. It's good to get familiarized with the method, and so then you can choose a tool that fits best how you will use OKRs. But it's a good question. Cool. So then we can go into how to set OKRs. So again, a little bit of definition, but it's to understand really well what we're aiming for. So here we'll have a bunch of examples as well. So I know for now it's a bit fuzzy, but yeah, the idea is to get a bit more concrete and having real life examples. So what is a good objective? First, it's qualitative. It kind of translates the mission for your team for the next quarter. And it has to be inspirational. So we still aim to have that a little bit like that stretch, that ambitious objective. It's good to use your team language. So if you have any acronyms, maybe not the best, but still if it translates best like the exact thing you want to say, it's a good tool to use so to create more engagement around your objectives. Second one is to be time bound. We talked about it. It's really important to set deadlines. And then again, to reiterate about being actionable independently. So be aware of other team dependencies. It doesn't mean that they won't have. Most of the time you will have other team dependencies, but it's to keep that in mind when you create those. So then when you design your key results, you're like super, super strong on those. I would just want to spend a little bit of time on the stretch goal. It's a notion that I found really hard to grasp when I first encountered OKRs, because like, what is a stretch goal? Like when do you know that it's hard enough and it's not too hard? So basically that what I was told is like, it's something when you read it is like, okay, Julie, I have to bring my A game. There's chances I might fail, but there's like chances I could get it, like a 50-50 chance. I have to be a little bit lucky. I have to have good resources, but if I work hard enough, yeah, there's a good chance I could achieve it. So it's like, it's not too hard, but it's not something I say, yeah, I did it last quarter, so I should be good this quarter. This is not good enough. So to give you a couple of examples, so at YouTube, one ongoing OKR would be to increase average watch time per user. So that's like large enough. It could be improving your customer service. It could be like launching a new feature. Bad ones would be like too specific, like increase your sales by 20%. This is actually more of a key result than it is an objective. Or like raise a Series B. It's like you may find founders that say, oh yeah, like right now I'm working on a fundraise. It's like, why is that? Like, why do you want, like, what do you want to achieve with that Series A? Sorry, I see there's a couple of questions. Sorry. So who can set an objective? A team together, a manager, a CEO, anybody? It could be anybody. It depends on if you want to set your OKRs for yourself or for your team. For yourself, it would be you talking with your management. And if you don't have one, it's like with your co-founder to have some kind of feedback. A team together, yes, for sure. So let's say I am a CTO and I want to set OKRs for the quarter, then I would bring in the room my team leads, my product manager, and so on, and then all together. Yeah, for sure. There's improve your customers for me is not specific, measurable, and also has no timeline. For sure, like that the piece where the OKR is ongoing, setting the timeline will be set by the key result more than to be by the objective. But for sure, the key result have to have a timeline for sure. So yeah. Overall, you will have some of the smart part that are contained by the objective, and the other, like measurable part, is mostly bared by the key results, for sure. A good question. How to share goals with other teams and get agreements? So how to share is, it could be like a shared doc. I don't know, it depends on the suite you use within your company. I'm a big fan of the Google Suite, obviously, but yes, it depends on publishing in the intranet or on your intranet profile, somewhere where it's directly available. To get agreements, that's when, so let's say 2 different teams will set their own OKRs, and they are depending on each other, but those OKRs are not set by their direction. Then it's more about communication than getting the agreement. The agreement will be discussed when the direction would then, so you would say maybe the CTO level, the CPO level, to get the agreement. For sure. So increase our sales by 20% is not a good objective in a way where it's like, why do you want to increase your sales by 20%? Is it like to get better revenue? And then if you if you want to increase your revenue, it's more like, do you want to invest in other features? Do you want to grow your team? Do you want to open a new market? Like, just to see a little bit more the big picture than to get on that key result level. But it is a good key result. Should OKRs be measured with a quantitative goal? The quantitative part is really bared by the key results. So maybe when I move further a little bit, you'll see how both work together. Can you detail what is? Okay, sorry. So to go back on what is an objective and a key result. So the objective is what I want to achieve, and the key result is how do I get there? How do I know I succeeded in getting that objective? So let's move a bit forward, and then maybe we'll also answer better the next questions. So we've discussed of like what is a good objective, and then you start listing your objectives. So I did answer a few of those, but the idea is if you set objective for your team, or even if you want to have input from other people, it can start with a brainstorm. So no more than 10 people, because otherwise there's too many, like if there's too many stakeholders, there's too many different incentives that are harder to align. And each of those 10 people or less prepare ahead. So the idea, if you are like a director, you would have your team leads that come with one or more objective of their own. And then the idea of that brainstorm is to compare and group. Some objective will hopefully go into the same direction, so you can group them. And you may have local objective that you can merge into team level kind of objective. So let's say I'm in financial study team. I have a team that is observing like the internet fixed line internet market, and the one that is looking at the mobile connection market. Both of them will have different objective, but one of them could be, oh, I want to improve my customer service for my mobile phone customers, and that could be actually merged with the other teams that want also to improve their customer service. So merging those into like team level objective, and then you can filter down. If you start with OKRs, it's good to start with one. It's easier to stick to it. It's easier to keep in mind. And then the idea would be to have between 3 to 5 objectives by people or per team. So once you have your set of objectives, then it's like, okay, how do I get there? What are good key results? So they are here to quantify the objective. So we were talking about that a little bit. How do I quantify it? It's important to keep in mind that OKRs are not a to-do list. So it's not a list of things you have to do. It's a list of results you like to see. So basically, we try always. It's hard, but yeah. Keeping in mind, it's not about time spent. It's really about what are the results. Again, independency. So again, always thinking about like trying not to blame anyone else for not reaching your objective. It's really about I'm owning that scope. This is my scope. This is out of scope, and we'll reach there. It's also a good time to be remembered of vanity metrics. So a vanity metric could be actually activities. So let's say we'll take the bad one, like make 50 cold calls. Like my goal is to have more customers. And I can say, well, I'll make 50 phone calls. It's not a good key result, because like you can make those 50 phone calls and then have you had more customer? You kind of don't know. You want to have leads. So maybe those 50 phone calls can lead to 20 leads, and leads are like better key results compared to those activities of like cold calling. So good example, going back to the YouTube one, to try to increase time spent on video could be one of them. It's like a set of 5, but it could be reducing the loading time of the video by X%. So again, that could be an ongoing key result that will have a different value from one quarter to another. Conversion rate is a good one when it's quantified, to have a net promoter score quantified as well. For example, assess customer service satisfaction is too broad. It's like, what does that mean? Like, you would just want to take notes, like what is a good result, what is a bad result? So yeah, NPS over 6 is a better key result. So I'll just do one more slide and see if there's questions. So once you have a good objective, you have your list, you know what a good key result is, you will break down your objective into 2 to 5 key results. So one thing that is good to keep in mind is all those key results, if they're all achieved to their fullest, should mean that you achieved your objective. So again, that's a good way to really redefine your scope and leave any key result that don't belong to your team to someone else OKR. And another good one that I first lost sight of is to keep that balance of those desired outcome. So what I'm thinking of is when you're single focused on like, okay, I want to increase customer satisfaction, so we'll answer all my tickets. It's performance is a good one, but it's like, okay, you answer all your tickets, but you still have as many as the quarter before and the quarter before. It's like there's more to do. There's like better documentation, better communication ahead. Like there's many other things to improve customer satisfaction, right? So balancing performance and quality, usage and satisfaction, and so on. So that's why you have to do 5, right? It's to encompass the whole like 360 view of your objective. Okay, let's see if there's, I'm sorry, I feel like I speak super fast. So what is NPS? So NPS is Net Promoter Score. It's like when you leave a website and they say, would you recommend that app or website to a friend, and you rate from 1 to 7. Viewing time of video, well, it's true. Viewing time about videos, it depends on how you would quantify that. So for YouTube, actually the time spent will help them rate the video. So the quality of the video would be higher and so on. So it depends on the fullest picture. Oh, sorry, it was defined. If you define 5 key results, the goal would not to be reached. Yes, it will need to be all 4 key results. Yes, so I think it's I can talk about that when we score it. Actually, I think it would be better. I'm not sure I understand. Objective have to be balanced. No, key results have to be balanced. So you have different set of objectives. So you have launch a new feature, have better customer experience, and so on. So it depends on your team, but the key result for each of those objectives need to be balanced. So you have the full picture of that one objective. So, okay. So I put a real life example. I think that would have been interesting. So you can find the source. I'll share my slide afterwards. But the Mozilla Foundation has been sharing their OKRs, and I think it's good to see like what it means in real life. So here you have a theme. So it's revenue, and then it's quite specific. So how would you grow and diversify? So through increase donor engagement. And then you have 3 key results. You have the key result lead. So it won't always be the same person depending on your team size. And here you have a baseline and a target, which means it may have been an ongoing key result, an ongoing OKR, but then from one quarter to another, you want to see the progress. So, and how to go to score. So after this part, hopefully, you'll have a fullest picture, and then maybe we can dive deeper into what it means for your culture, like your company culture. How to score OKRs. So that's also, again, like that's, how do you say, the bit of magic around Google, and say, wow, OKRs have to be not reached, it has to be around 0.7, why is that? So we'll dive deeper into that. So actually, scoring is all about conversation. And that's why OKRs are so powerful, like communication tool. Is like so you have your objective, you have your set of key results, then now you have to put the measurable part to each of those key results, right? So it's like, okay, but like, what does it mean? So we are aiming for the 0.7. I'll explain why later. 0.7 means, okay, we are happy with the result. It's not our ideal word. Ideally, we would have gone further to 1. So again, what is that ideal word? Or maybe if we didn't reach far enough, what is a 0.5 means? What does the 0.3 mean? So for example, here I put a quick example that I found really interesting, because it's not about like on only one scale, right? It's like, okay, we want to launch a new product with 10 active users. Maybe we didn't even launch the product, it's not ready yet, but we have 3 people internally that are using it. It had to be noted, it's not good enough, it's not what we wanted, but it's a progress. So it's like all about documenting that progress. So in our next OKRs, we can maybe reassess like the velocity of the team, the resources of the team, and so on. grade of 0.7 is like prototype is tested, approved, and then we have a couple of active users. And the one is like, whoa, we reached it. We didn't know we hoped it would be possible, but it's like the team worked really hard and we got a little bit lucky, and then we succeeded in having that. We could not have done more with that quarter. It's like we could not have done more. And so once you agreed on that and you document it, because it's easy to forget actually, said, oh, did we sit down? And so on. So then you go sit again with your manager or your report to score them. So the idea is to go through each of those key results to grade them, and it will get you the grade of the OKR. You don't grade objective. And so going back to that 0.7, it's a bit arbitrary. It can, again, it's for you to make it your own for your own team and company. But the idea is to say, okay, we have to have a grade that says it's good enough. You have to set that line where you say, this is our job. We should reach there, but then maybe we can do a little bit more. So that's where you get your team engaged. Like the 0.7 is like, I'll do like next quarter, but the 1 is like, whoa, we really got that step further with that 1. And then again, to reiterate about postmortems, it's always like, again, documentation, reporting, it's so boring. It's still a good way to keep the track of what you've been trying, because here, those stretch goals are also a bit about getting to know your team, getting to know the capacity of your team, right? And you will make mistakes, and that's the OKRs leave you room to make mistakes, and that's that whole point of that methodology. But then if you don't keep track of like what you tried and what you think it didn't work, then it's not that useful to make those tries. Can you also set a grade more than 1? Ideally, no, because like the 1 is like, wow, yes, maybe actually no, I will revise my answer. When in your first runs, yes, it will happen. And that's actually how you calibrate your OKRs for your own team. And that's a little bit like why it takes a couple of runs and maybe like a full year to understand if OKRs work for you. It's like you need a couple of OKRs, one back to the other, and looking back to understand like, wow, actually my team can do even more than I thought it could be. That's like a good surprise. Is the grade you use a suggestion? No, it's, well, so from one company to another, I would say that 0.7 is like, it could be between 0.6 and 0.8. It depends on maybe also the team, the room you want to leave to risk and challenge. But that is mostly what we use. Cool. Okay, I think I've answered them. Cool. So quick templates. This you can find on Rework website. So they have both a doc and an Excel file, Google Sheet templates. It's quite simple, but it's visual. It helps you have something neat when you first start. So you can see how it looks like and having all your grades, and it feeds the objective and color them. So it's quite good. See here, they see 0.6, 0.7 is on average. So last part, but not least, and that's good because we'll have plenty of time for questions afterwards, is like, what does that mean for your company? So first, I want to start with the timeline. So it gives you like an assessment of like how it would work on the long term for you. So if we take 1 year X, for example, you would then have company strategic OKRs that are set for the whole year. It could be 1, it could be a couple, right? And then you have each team lead and each team members that set the OKRs. So one after the other. So you'll have mid-quarter check-in, and then you have scoring and setting the OKRs. So two things that are interesting on that slide. First, it does take 2 weeks. Well, roughly, like it takes a few rounds to score and set your OKRs, because those are conversations. Again, it's not about the grade, it's about the information that is contained into that document, right? It's like, what does that mean? Do we agree on what I should be doing and what the team is doing and what the team is not doing? So it's really about having those conversations. And when you first get started, those conversations are actually quite broad when you think about it. When you have a couple of OKRs behind you, you actually reuse a lot of those conversations, and you are more and more accustomed to how high you should aim and like what is your team direction as the project is growing. But this is a conversation. And second one that you may have had through other slides and things I've been saying is like, team lead and team member are setting their OKRs at the same time. What? It does mean that as a team member, I don't need to wait my manager's OKR to set my own. This is mind-blowing, right? So you hire people because they should, like, they do their job better than you would, right? It's like you hire experts, or even if it's like more junior, hire. Yeah, that's another question. Like, what is the seniority when you set your own OKRs, for sure? But like, those people are here to support you, and they know how they do better than you probably. So they come up with their own OKRs, and then you chat, you discuss. That's a conversation, which feeds me into actually no, something we'll dive deeper into later. But this is worth noting. It's really interesting to see that it empowers people to set their own OKRs and set them in stone with their management. So before that, another question I have quite often is like, what are the link between OKRs and performance assessment? So one thing that is made super clear is like, OKRs should not be a direct, well, should not be the only one criteria to rank, like for promotion or for bonus decisions. First is quite obvious, right? If I know that my bonus is directly linked to my OKRs, I'll be a bit cautious about my OKRs. I would not set like risky OKRs. I would say usual OKRs. Second is OKR not comprehensive of the whole work you've been doing, right? We did say it's not a to-do list. You will have a lot of more work, and also like relationship work and so on that is not encompassed in OKRs. So again, keeping in mind. And last but not least is, I like to say project and resources are not evenly distributed. You always at some point have that, poor project that someone has to do, or that difficult customer someone has to manage that may have, or like, you have different call for paper, you have big ones and you have smaller ones, call for projects. So yes, it's good to set that performance as like compensation assessment to a leveled ground. However, OKRs are great to show work done and the impact. So you can evaluate the level of achievement. Is that like a 0.7? Is that a bit less, or is that more? But also keeping in mind like the goal. How difficult was it? How risky was it? So having those two together. And again, it's a great way to start this conversation. So you don't wait for 3 months to look into what your team has been doing and how they have been performing. You'll have like better, like more often those conversations that will allow you to realign people. I didn't catch the point. Does the employee provide? Yes, yes. So the employee proposes the objective and the key results. And then, so beforehand, sorry, I wasn't super clear. So beforehand, everyone knows the company's strategic OKRs. So everyone knows what overall we want to achieve. Then we sit down for like a couple of days, and then we decide like how I do contribute to that. So obviously, if you've had OKRs for the quarter before, you do know your manager role. But even if you haven't, like when like your manager should be able to communicate his role and his vision of the team's work in the company. So you should be able to assess how you will support that team. And then it's a conversation. Once you bring up your OKRs, so objective and key result, and then your manager says, well, maybe that's not what I had in mind, or maybe it's not ambitious enough, and so on. And that's actually what brings me to my last slide. Those decisions are bidirectional, and it brings me to last point, that clear communication. If your team members comes with OKRs that don't make sense to you, it's like, why is that? Like understanding where the miscommunication happened. Is it like really far off? And then you like, maybe he didn't understand like his job, like his role within the company? Or is it more like a vision? Oh, he thought the product would go this way, and in the end, the direction is moving a little bit. Did like the strategy was not communicated clearly by management or like the CEO and so on. So it's like those are actually like highlighting like maybe miscommunications. And last point, and then we'll go to question, is like it allows distributed ownership. And again, this shakes company culture quite a bit. But if you say that everyone is empowered to understand like, okay, this is how I can and want to contribute, it, like you set your own OKRs. So you're like, first, it's like you kind of, you feel like you're able to do it. So you should do good with your OKRs. But also it allows you to translate your role within the bigger organization. So it's actually a good motivation tool. And it enables then, if something went wrong, understanding which level. Are there like, is it like a two teams communication problem issue? Is that like a lack of resources? So it allows to pinpoint a little bit better where the drift happened. So sorry, I felt like I went through it super quick. We have 10 more minutes. Let's see if there's any other question. Let me make that bigger. Oops, sorry. Is a grade. Oh, no, I think actually I know. Okay. If OKRs should be ambitious, but you stated earlier that they should be achievable, smart, where do you draw the line? That's the whole point. First, you will get like, no, I would get it wrong, right? It's like understanding like, what is your ideal world? Like, if everything aligned, where would you be in 3 months? And at first you be like shooting too high, or like you're like, wow, actually I do have only 3 devs, so maybe I will need more time. Or maybe it's like, well, actually I didn't know my team was that senior, and like maybe we reached our sales targets in a month and a half. So it's like it takes a couple of runs to assess the capacity of your team. And actually, which brings me to another question that I had sometimes, like, how do startups that are like entities that move super fast adapt OKRs? It's like, well, 3 months is actually a really long time for my company. OKR should be set with your resources today. And actually, OKRs is, well, actually for big company as well, OKRs are a good way to translate why you need more people, why you need more to hire someone, like more people, why you need more budget. So that 0.3 left over from 0.7 to 1 is like that extra resources you could use. So it's, again, if you're a startup, it means like, okay, if we make that strategic hire, we can go there. Otherwise, with my team today, this is where we'll stand. Do you have any books? There's a bunch of resources. So what I based my work on is you'll find a couple of white paper by Felipe Castro. Felipe Castro. And then that lady, I forgot her name, that is also a former Googler that worked a lot on that method, that wrote a book about it at O'Reilly. O'Reilly OKRs should be getting you the book. So that's good. When you read content on that topic, then you will, and also another good one would be, I think, Trello or Buffer, I don't remember which one, left OKRs. So they tried and they didn't stick to it, and didn't stick to it. It's a good way to say, like, why it didn't work for them. So when you will start reading about it, you will see like how you can adapt to your team culture, and make it work for you, and make it work for your size and your specificities. Oh, sorry, I didn't put to everybody. Sorry. Here you go. So then you will see like what worked, what we did, what didn't. The only thing is to be a little bit persistent with it, because at first it's really frustrating. At first, like, you're like, this is not useful, it's more work for me. But once it's used, and the wider in your structure it's used, in your company's use, then you'll see the power. I do believe that the biggest power of OKRs is like that communication piece. I really found in the different jobs I had that the piece where you have to manage expectations and try to obtain things from different teams that have different objectives than you is a little bit hard. So the piece around communication and scoping and prioritization is really, really interesting. I don't know if I missed anything, because like I'm trying to scroll. Yeah. So the book is, John Doerr is the one who found it in Intel and then moved it to Google. So for sure. And it's interesting. So when I haven't read the book actually, I should have, but when you read other things such as Felipe Castro, you will see that sometimes they disagree on like how high the stretch could be, or like there's that whole concept around like, is a key result, like what do I do with things I need to do, like fixing that bug. I do need to fix that bug. Is that an okay, like, is that a key result? So it's like, that part of like stretch is definitely a point that you will need to try in your company. For product tech team, isn't there a risk of adding too much process? For sure. So it does feed into a little bit the agile process. For sure, sprints are like on a shorter scale. It does feel like it takes a lot of time, but it should fit into roadmap and sprints, and like your one-on-one team ritual. So you have like a daily one. You won't go through all the OKRs, but it could be like the structure of like the one feedback you give, right? So it does merge a little bit, and also, it should fit into your roadmap for sure. I don't know, Arthur, if you've noted any question I didn't answer, or maybe you guys can put your questions again. Sorry.
Yep, I didn't see anything more. We don't have any question elsewhere, so I think that's it. If you guys have more question, we still have a few minutes with you.
Oh, cool. I really hope it was useful. I felt it was, yeah, a lot of definitions. You can find a lot of examples. So you have Uber that opened their OKR at some points. Yeah, you have a bunch of examples online. I will share the slide of the presentation. Maybe after Arthur has the bit.ly link.
Yeah, I will send it to you right now.
And yes, so bunch of examples, bunch of content. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to help. I didn't does employee. So no, so does the employee propose objective and then his key results, or oh yes, I misunderstood that question actually. Or does the manager give the objective and then propose OKRs? So no, the employees both present objective and key result at the same time. Well, no, actually, it depends. It depends. On a team level, the objective will be set collectively with your team leads, and then you will draft the OKRs. But if it's individual OKRs, then yes, you set both objective and key results yourself, and then you talk it through with your manager. You mentioned not to use, yeah. So is there have to be still other measure? Yes, I do believe that OKRs are not enough to use for payment and bonuses. It would give a bias to how you set your own OKRs. Other measure could be like how how that project feeds into like the wider company. If the project fails, but like it still had a job to be done, you have learning from it. So it's like, how do you go further than the job done to mention to measure bonuses? It is also it's a tricky question, and it is one of the performance assessment criteria, but it's not the only one. It's like also how that person fit into the team, how that person was a good team player. Like there's a few more things you can add. Upraise can help you on OKRs and be linked inside Jira. Oh, I didn't know. Good. Okay. Thank you. I'll look into that actually. Cool. Well, thank you again, Arthur.
No, thank you, Julie. That was perfect, very clear. Where we learned lots of stuff. We also use OKR at Malt, so it was great to see how like the top management could have thought about it, like before sharing it with whole teams and getting feedbacks. So thank you very much. I just put the slides on the chat for everyone. I will put it once again. Thanks all of you. See you soon for another Malt Academy. Thanks again, Julie. That was perfect. I don't know if you want to share your LinkedIn or, well, it's your name, so Julie.
Yes.
And if you have a Twitter or
like a Google email, like a Gmail account up. If you have questions directly or LinkedIn or on Malt, just for questions, of course.
True. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Julie. See you soon. Have a nice afternoon. Have a nice weekend. And
have a nice weekend.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.